Monkees, and you listen to them and you know the Monkees, you know how old they are. Except the people making the music were not the Monkees. You hear the singing, but the music was not.
The music, the background players, right?
All part of what we're doing now. They were like the ultimate supergroup that you never heard of, an elite bunch of studio musicians who provided the sounds that led to hit records for the Beach Boys and Sonny and Cher and Simon and Garfunkel. We're leaving out about 1,000 others.
1,000.
They became known over the years as the Wrecking Crew.
The Wrecking Crew was the focal point of the music. They were the ones with all the spirit and all the know-how.
They played so well, and they played so well together. The musicians were really the unsung heroes of all those hit records.
When I listen to the record, it is so apparent that these guys were just really so good.
They were the stone-cold rock and roll professionals, and there may never, ever be a group of rock and roll musicians of that caliber again.
All of those names.
Joining us right now is Denny Tedesco. If you follow the world of music, the name Tedesco is a very well-known name because one of the guys we saw there's Tommy Tedesco, your father, who was the ultimate session guitarist through the years. First of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you for joining us.
Congratulations on your documentary.
Thank you so much.
It tells a story. I mean, I knew a little bit of the story that these fabulous musicians created all the sounds that were often attributed to others. But for you, for instance...
I didn't know, and then it was fascinating to be drawn in to find out, oh, that wasn't... Oh, really? It wasn't the Beach Boys? Hold it, that wasn't, you know, Sonny and Cher's players behind them, all of that.
Yeah, it blows my mind now because I grew up with it, obviously, but been working on this film for 19 years. I forget people don't know.
No.
Even today, I still forget.
Well, like even when your dad passed away, that was the headline for everyone. It was like the music, you probably don't know the name.
Yeah.
All right, so for instance, if you're listening to the Beach Boys, who had a unique sound, you saw Brian Wilson, a genius.
Absolutely.
But he didn't really use the Beach Boys.
In the early days, he did.
Yes.
You know, when they did their own albums, but there was a point when Brian didn't want to travel. He wanted to stay in the studio. And we were just talking about this offset. I think Brian, when he started doing those, using the session musicians, it helped him create a different, you know, environment for him.
Well, it got really complicated too, the things he was writing, and his guys couldn't,
Yeah,
right?
and Al Jardine said, he said, listen, it would have taken us weeks to figure it out. You know, we just had to learn it for the road, but these guys could come in and get out, you know, within hours.
What bands did they represent in the studio?
Oh God, I mean, they played with the Fit Dimensions, Sinatra, the Beach Boys, Janadine, Mamas and Papas, Johnny Rivers, Elvis when he was in L.A. Anything that was done in L.A. in the 60s most likely had this group of session musicians on it.
And it was a group, some people say 20, some people say 50, some people say 60.
It wasn't like a set group. It was a bunch of guys at the time in the early 60s.
And one gal.
And one gal. She was one of the guys, though.
She was,
She was one
right?
of the guys, absolutely.
Let's run a clip here. I think this is Carol Kay, the great bass player.
Exactly.
And describing how one of the biggest hits evolved here.
Right.
I said, uh-oh, we need to pull a rabbit out of a hat for this one. You know, it was our job to come up with riffs and stuff. So about the third line I came up with was da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. Without a good bass line, the tune doesn't pop. You know, it doesn't snap, you know, like a big hit record.
And in fact, you know, with compliments to everybody else, that made the record.
Absolutely.
That sound made the record.
Yeah.
All right, now that's Carol Kay. It's interesting she came up first. She's a big part of your documentary.
Very much so.
She's
a
Carol,
star.
Carol
star.
Kay today hates the name The Wrecking Crew. Says it was never called The Wrecking Crew.
Correct.
And that the documentary in which she is a star is not representative of what really happened.
Well, I can agree with one thing. The Wrecking Crew was a name that probably wasn't used that often at all. Some people don't even remember it. But in terms of representation, it was a great representation. All these musicians did all this work. There's so many musicians. There's not a key group of musicians.
Right.
You had Glenn Campbell, you had Leon Russell, you had Hal Blaine, you had Earl Palmer on drums.
Right.
So it was a group of musicians that went in and out.
And by the way, you mentioned Glenn Campbell.
It
A lot
was
of,
so
a lot of people
nice,
won't know this.
That he was part of this. He was the
very much
background
so. My
before
dad,
he became
Dad
so
said he
famous.
was the best rock guitarist he sat next to. And Glenn could not read a note. They just say, Glenn, just play here, and boom, gone.
Yeah.
could
Off
do
and run.
it.
Leon Russell, amazing.
Let's go. I think this next clip is this Tommy Tedesco. Oh, all right. This is the Beach Boys. All right.
I went to Gold Star and I met the musicians who played for Phil Spector, and I immediately had Steve Douglas start booking. They're called the Regulars, the Wrecking Crew. They started booking them for me in my studio in Western.
Session players were brought in by producers for a variety of reasons. In fact, most of the mid-1960s Beach Boys backing tracks didn't feature any of the Beach Boys. It was Brian Wilson's decision to push the music to another level, and to do that, he enlisted the best of L.A.
Yeah, now we were talking about that. I want to run the clip with your dad right now because this is illustrative and funny of what was going on.
I had one real hot lick on this one record, Spanish stuff all over the place.
Guess you could say my love was blind.
And finally, his guitar player come up to me. He says, "Oh, you drove me crazy with that thing. First of all, I can't play it, so I don't play it. And then everybody comes up to me complimenting me on what I did on it. I said, well, just take the compliments and forget it."
We should have set that up better. This is Gary Lewis and Playboy's big hit. Your dad drops that riff in there.
Right.
The regular guitar player,
Tommy Tripplehorn.
pretty good. Yeah. But he said he couldn't play.
Well, and it's funny because I just interviewed Tommy Tripplehorn a couple months ago for the DVD, and Tommy said he forgot about that, totally forgot about it until he was on the Mike Douglas show doing the playback. And that was the first time he heard it, went, oh, God. You know, all of a sudden he hears this classical guitar going,
and then people would come over to him and say, that is
was
the great
awesome.
stuff. Yeah.
And he was, But that's what these guys did. They went in and they, you know, someone asked, were they upset that they weren't stars? They were stars.
They were.
They were stars among the stars.
And they were also working 3-4 sessions a day and making a lot of money.
As Carol said, she made more money than the president, right?
And then singer-songwriters came along, and that kind of...
And technology changed.
Technology changed, all right.
But it really is fascinating.
The Wrecking Crew, available now on demand and on iTunes, also playing in select theaters in L.A. It was at the New Art just the other night, I remember that. For a complete list, go to our website. Pleasure to meet you folks. Go see that. You will learn a lesson. Also, the music is good. Thanks a lot. Denny Tedesco, appreciate it.